Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub here in West Hollywood, and I don't know. Today I am I'm an iced coffee boy. I got my iced coffee, and I'm just sipping it, and I'm like a little otter clutching my coffee.
It went from cold to hot instantly,
Yeah.
like weather-wise.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, I was gone for 3 weeks, and I was playing soccer in the cold with long-sleeve clothes, and then I came back and was like, oh, I don't want to wear anything now.
And who are you who's wearing nothing?
My name is Michael. I am currently clothed. I am a chaser, and I am a hot coffee boy this morning because when I had a vacation in Puerto Rico, and we had this really good coffee called El Coqui, which are the tiny little frogs that make chirping sounds in Puerto Rico. And it's really damn good coffee. And so I bought some. I got a French press, and it's super good, super tasty.
Nice. My name is Don Marshall. I'm a big chubby guy living in sunny Hollywood. And today, I guess I'm the only one who got the naked memo because I'm the only one here not wearing clothes. What the hell's up with that? It's just rude, people.
I just thought I should send you that.
Rude.
I like it. I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And today I am a well-caffeinated boy. Yes, that's right. And I've had breakfast. Hello.
No, you have or haven't? 'Cause that's
I have.
Okay, none of that food to water down the caffeine kick. Quick bit of business here before we get into it. So I've been editing this show for over 2 years now, and I really love doing the show. I love recording the show, but the editing is work. And because I edit for a living, it very much has taken a toll on me over the last 2 years. I'm pretty exhausted at this point. And as much as I want to keep doing the show, I can't keep sort of overextending myself. I've been dragging this out for years at this point. And so we've decided to hire an editor, sort of take that over so that we can keep doing the show every week. We absolutely love it. And we love how you guys have taken the show and how much it's meant to you, especially over the pandemic. And so we want to keep doing that. In order to fund the hiring of an editor, we're going to start a Patreon channel.
Yes.
Now, this will also go towards, obviously, with patrons, if you want to support us, we'll have different levels and you get extra content. So
Yes.
you're not just giving us money to keep doing the same thing. As a supporter, you will also be able to get access to other things that we're going to do. Trevor is still setting that up at the moment. We'll have more details as we get closer to it, but expect that to develop over the next couple weeks. It is definitely something not only to help the channel or to help the podcast and help us keep going, but to help me personally, because I'm exhausted. I really want to keep doing this, but I'm tired.
See the bags under his eyes.
Yeah, it's been a lot. And
Actually, hung my coat on one of them when I came in.
So yes, so please help us out, support the channel when it launches, and we will keep you posted.
Let's get rolling. I actually was like laying in bed last night and I was like, oh, this episode's kind of a little bit, I don't know. I feel like a bit of a downer.
Is it?
This has been being discussed in kind of chub chaser world, and I didn't want to say anything until there was really confirmation, and I was like waiting for maybe a statement to be released, but also I don't think there will be an official one. Edward, the founder and owner of Bigger City and Bigger Vegas, passed away last week. Wow. And it's very sad, and Edward was very private, so like I don't want to, I don't know, dwell on it too much because I know he would kind of hate that.
Overshare.
Well, I think that the two main points that should be made is this will in no way affect Bigger City or Bigger Vegas. They are a well-oiled machine at this point. They've produced the event very well for years. So if anyone's worried like, oh, well, what's going to happen to that? No, it's going to be fine. Yeah. It's going to be perfectly fine. And the other thing is, I don't think people realize quite how much of an effect Edward had on the chub chaser community.
I mean, Bigger City.
Bigger City in itself was revolutionary at the time. Revolutionary.
Yeah.
And
It's the spine of the community as far as I can tell.
And it has, like 1/3 members worldwide.
Yeah.
So that's a huge reach. The other thing that people may not know is Edward's philanthropy and promotions of chub chaser events. If you've ever been to a Convergence, which is not his event, but if you've ever been to a Convergence, he and his company would donate so much money and resources to every Convergence. That was a substantial force in making them happen.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, knowing nothing about this community years and years and years ago, still found Bigger City. Like just And I feel like so many people did the same thing of just like sort of stumbling around until you find inevitably bigger city. And that's kind of your footstep into the rest of the world.
It's almost like it's as if, I don't think this is actually true, unless it is, that, as a very young chub, Edward says, I want a date. I shall found a global dating service.
Well, I mean, so
for people like me.
it's hard to find on the Bigger City website, but there is like an About Us page where you can see like little, cartoony headshots of the team.
Oh, nice.
And also like the timeline of Bigger City and the original Bigger City guy. Everyone who's, for people who don't know,
yeah, I remember.
The cartoon image, like the
yeah.
bigger city guy. Yeah.
for civilians who listen or people who aren't in the Chub Chase community, there is like a mascot for Bigger City who is a little cartoon chub with blonde hair. The original like mascot for the website, you can see a little thing from 1999, is very clearly Edward.
Yeah, but it's like Edward as a 20-year-old. It's like he's really cute and kind of
like-
goofy and
Yeah, and like with the facial hair and I don't know. Anytime I saw Edward, he was wearing kind of a signature hat.
yes.
And I think like this is like his hat at the time, his signature hat at the time. And it's funny because I've met, Edward a handful of times at events, and whenever I usually saw him, he was working, but I did get to see Edward at, I think it was Orlando Convergence, and he wasn't working, and he was just there like
a regular human being.
yes,
In
which
the
was
wild.
very strange. And I had an experience with him, which I'll share because it was just like, it's how I will remember Edward other than like working himself to the bone during an event. So it was Orlando Convergence. We were in the pool and Edward was like tipsy, which I never saw, and just like dancing in the pool and it was raining and we were talking and then he slipped into another language, which at the time I was wondering if it was German. I think it may have been Latvian because Edward at least was currently living in Latvia. I don't know if he's from Latvia.
No, he's from a lot of places.
Yes, it's and part of the mystery. But it was just, I don't know what he was saying. And then when I saw him the next morning, I asked him, I was like, oh, we're talking. And then you kept like, I was slipping into another language and he didn't remember it.
I think it
So
was Portuguese, wasn't it? Portuguese.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah.
I don't know. But I
That's
will remember
fascinating.
him dancing, like spinning in the pool in his hat, speaking a language I don't know.
In the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never met the man, but on behalf of all of us who have benefited so much
Yes.
from the work that he did,
Yeah.
not just from Bigger City, but it made an impact for fat people. Period.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work, Edward.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And condolences to his friends and family and people he was working with because
Speaking of that, I did a lot of work for Edward and his various organizations as a writer and a speaker. And in a business meeting, I don't think I ever heard Edward use the word I. It was always we. When referring to his businesses, when referring to the enterprise, it was always we. And he was very much about sharing the credit, sharing everything.
Nice.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, now
Moving
that
on.
yeah, we got some uplifting stuff now. So as of this recording date, Lizzo's show dropped yesterday. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't watched episode one.
I fully intend to watch.
Yes.
But yes, not quite yet.
But there was a wonderful interview by the Curvy Fashionista, interviewing some of, I won't say some, the cast of,
Is it the whole cast?
I believe so.
There's definitely, I think, like 6. They have little like profiles, like
Yeah.
short bios for each of the contestants of the show.
And just to review for people who are not completely plugged into Lizzo world, as some people are.
Yes.
So this is a competition show, a competition dance show.
Yes, to be backup dancers.
To be
for
backup
Lizzo.
dancers for Lizzo, and the extra special sauce is they're all fat women.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, is it an elimination type show or is it a full group completes the process and then someone's chosen?
I don't think we fully know. It is described as a competition, but it's also described as being extremely like group supportive and like not caddy competition.
That's what
but
I was
like-
wondering. That's
yeah.
what I'm willing to bet on because
More-
I'm finally starting to see that shift in competition shows after the Great British Bake Off.
I was going to say.
Made its impact by being heartwarming, even though they were an elimination show. I just watched School of Chocolate or Chocolate Art on Netflix. It's a reality show about chocolatiers making these enormous chocolate sculptures. And it was the first non-elimination competition show I've seen in a long time. And it made it so much more easy and pleasant to watch because I didn't have to feel bad at the start of every episode when someone I liked left or at the end. You know?
Yeah, I think I don't know if they're doing
I mean,
eliminations.
it says
but-
they're competing for a spot, so it
Yeah.
sounds like there's going to be an elimination.
Well, the prize may still go to one person, but like if they all make it to the end, they all get the benefit of the training and time with Lizzo. Like that's much cooler to watch.
Well, and the reason she started the show was to make it a showcase. So it's not
exactly.
it's not in the show's interest to diminish the showcase.
yeah, that makes
And
perfect
in,
sense.
in this interview of them kind of talking to the different contestants, it's interesting to see the bios and just the diverse backgrounds in terms
huge amount of
of
diversity.
and in terms of their dancing backgrounds and different styles and everything, but also just like in the interview they talk about how like coming together and kind of having been isolated in this dance space of not having a space to be a fat dancer and then getting to come together.
Oh, and it's only fat dancers.
And they're all living together in the, I think they call it the big girl house. Like I think they end on this fantastic moment, which I don't know if she was being serious or not. Maybe
I
she
think
was.
probably.
It was Ashley from the show was saying her favorite memory was that they were told, I think accurately, not like as a joke, but like they were told, okay, so at midnight every night the cameras will cut off and the crew goes home. And she was like, so at that point, we all got to kind of just be ourselves and hang out naked together, which just sounds like the most amazing party. But it sounds like a big sleepover, like an extended sleepover where they all get to do their favorite thing in the world. And the diversity in the cast is incredible. And everybody's, again, like different backgrounds, different histories, different ages.
and vastly different body types.
Vastly different body types, absolutely, yeah.
I liked that. There wasn't just one brand of dancer they were bringing in. It was all over the place.
I mean, you talked about the diversity of backgrounds. One of the bios actually reminded me a lot of Dexter's bio, like growing up in Houston and taking. But by the way, for those who are interested, Dexter, we'll talk about this later, but Dexter does have a new reality show coming out.
So is it his show? Because you've mentioned that a couple times.
He's one of the
and I wasn't-
judges.
He's one of the judges.
Okay, he's on
on
the
a panel.
show.
He's on the
Okay.
show every week.
That's awesome.
It's called
Come dance with me.
Come Dance With Me. And it debuts
April 15th.
April 15th. Thank you, Trevor.
Trevor is there for it.
Bang, bang, bang.
It's not every day that Trevor gets to interrupt other people, so I feel like he's earned it
It's already on his DVR.
over
He's
the
ready.
course of the show.
I got my my
We
cold
need to
brew.
keep an interruption counter for Trevor, like the number of times that one of us cuts him off.
Because you can't tell if he's done.
Well, no, but he's also almost always the person leading us into the next topic. So, like, inevitably, somebody's like, "Well, I have something to say." No, the interview is really fun, and I mean, we were already going to watch the show, but it does make you really just want to watch the show for their personalities and just seeing them having fun. And obviously, Lizzo. Let's not forget, Lizzo
Yes.
wasn't even part of the interview. This was with the cast of the show, with the talent. So, I mean, there's a whole other element here. Very exciting.
So just to reiterate, where can people watch that?
Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Excellent.
Check it out. Streaming. Is this, wait, are we already in Fat Watch?
Yes. Come with me.
2022.
I think of soaring over California when I hear this, and I imagine when the hawk sound, like we get a blast of the orange tree.
Oh, yeah,
smell
the smell
as
of
we
orange
like our
groves.
legs are dangling and we tilt and veer into this wonderful piece from Huffington Post. Emily McCombs talking about going back to the office after. I mean, now that our office, I don't want to say after the pandemic because we're still in the pandemic.
Yeah.
When
After
her office-
quarantine, I think, is
after
the key.
quarantine, and what it is like going back to the office after gaining 70 pounds and just kind of the mind fuck of like going back to your old life after your lifestyle has changed so much and your body has changed so much.
And it's a jarring, like it's not like the weight came on, week by week while you were going into the office every week. It's just like people's last visual image of you was when you were 70 pounds lighter. And then like, bam, you have to show up. And she talks about how her weight has fluctuated quite a bit over the years. I liked the framing of it, which was basically like, she was saying sort of like, I've never disliked my fat body, but I preferred how people treated me when I was thin.
Yeah, that really comes across at several points.
Very self-aware.
Yeah.
And she admits that like she's not. It's not that she's devoid of her own fat phobia.
Yeah.
It's just that what really sucked about being fat was how people treated you being fat compared to how she got treated when she was thin.
Yeah. And I guess her coping mechanism for having to go back into the office, looking very different from how she used to, was to dress in this hot neon pink pantsuit, and there's a picture of her wearing this, and it is like, it's really, really eye-catching.
I would wear
looks
that.
great. She said, she was I guess kind of an exercise for her because she didn't want to hide. Like she didn't want to go in and kind of shrink away and hope people didn't notice her or didn't notice the difference or whatever. She wanted to just go out, go proud, and go big.
So she goes into the office, and what's wonderful about the happy ending is, despite having endured so much trauma in the past, in her childhood, in her adolescence, in her early adulthood, so much trauma around her weight and how people treated her, she goes into the office. She's wearing the loudest pink pantsuit she can find, and people are decent. People are fine. People are like, wow, love the pantsuit.
Yeah.
Nobody is, I mean, and she's like, oh my, it's like, they treated me like I was an adult. And as opposed to, when you're a fat kid, there's all this stuff that happens in elementary school. And not that you don't get slimed as an adult, but I think it's very different.
Yeah.
She talks about how when she was an elementary school kid walking to school, people would like yell out of their car at her or throw sodas at her.
Just drive by, literally like a drive by, but with sodas.
Yeah, but with sodas.
It's a non-lethal drive-by.
Yeah.
So it was actually a huge shock for her that people are in the office are interacting with how she's presenting herself in this pantsuit. How great is that?
Yeah.
Rather than as like, oh my God, what happened to you?
Or not even just that, but not even like those like hidden microaggressions that are kind of under the surface, and they're not the big obvious getting slimed, but still kind of there. Like not even that.
And she credits like, although it's fat phobia is still alive and well,
Sure.
She says, maybe we have taken some ground. Maybe things are a little bit better compared to where she was.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the examples she gave, was that when she was younger, she wouldn't have had the option to wear this hot pink pantsuit because they didn't make clothing like that for people her size.
Right.
So just that advancement of having the option to wear something like that, which looks amazing, and gave her the choice, gave her the ability to make that choice. Like she wouldn't have had that option before. And that's also in its own way part of what helped her get through it.
One of the things I loved about this article was it was just discussing very frankly, I think, a fear that many of us who had an office life before this are facing, of returning to that normalcy with a new body and bluntly discussing it in a way that makes you not feel so alone. So that was, I think, a great thing about that article, in that it's a very universal experience, even though hers may have been a little bit more extreme than some. So we have a big topic today.
Yes.
A topic of firsts.
Yes. I'll give some background into this. So obviously there is the ongoing terrible steamroll red state battles of basically trying to vanish and silence and torture LGBTQ youth in states like Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Iowa. And someone who I've shared artwork from, Michael Herrera, Paper Tiki on Instagram, was sharing on Twitter, kind of discussing the wanting to investigate what was the first time people heard the word gay and what was the context. And the setup was it a slur? Was it happy?
Yeah.
Or was it about romantic love? And 72% heard it as a slur.
the first time, like
Yes.
the first memory of it.
Yeah.
15% was a synonym for happy, and 11% was romantic attraction, romantic love. Which, I mean, sadly, isn't that
Not too surprising.
shocking. I was thinking about it because my mom had gay friends when I was growing up, and like she told me they were gay, but I didn't really get any context for what that meant. But like knowing, like seeing the friends and just kind of being present for like interactions and stuff, I knew it was other.
Yeah.
So like that was my context of it
yeah.
was like definitely some kind of other.
The thing that weirds me out about that is so we had my parents were friends with a guy who lived next door to us who was gay, and like friends before he moved next door. Like they knew him, and then we ended up, but I didn't see him that often. But yeah, the same exact experience of like, he was a friend of the family, but he still felt like separate or like kind of, I don't know, like weirdly kind of other, not through any like conscious choice, but just like it was in the air.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this happened, but not related to him directly, just my experience of the word gay or like what it means to be gay. I don't know how or when this happened. I can't place the first time because my memory doesn't work like that. But I, at some point as a kid, understood that being gay was bad. I don't know how. I don't know where that came from. I don't remember anyone sitting me down and saying
Yeah,
it.
and yet, me too. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I mean, yes, but I don't have any. Like we had a gay couple next to us, and they weren't. I mean, having a single mother like that was our head of household, right? Was my single mom. So we were other two. We weren't like part of the Beaver Cleaver clan. And you know, if you're a neighbor child and you play in other kids' houses, you realize like, oh, well, they're really fucked up too. Okay.
yeah.
You learn that quick.
Okay, I like
Yeah.
I like our fucked up better than like their fucked up. Okay, because their fucked up comes with hitting.
Oh, yeah, that's not
I don't want
great.
that. Yeah. But I only had positive visuals or experiences for gay, but yeah, I knew that wasn't a good thing to be.
Yeah, it just seeps in.
I had no positive connotations to the word gay. My introduction to it was from, a religious background, from a
Yeah.
religious mom.
Classic.
But the only time when I really started hearing it discussed was in the context of the AIDS crisis.
Oh, of course.
So my first introduction to what gay was literally people on the television set telling me that it was a punishment from God, for evil people doing evil things for something they deserved, right? And I think I developed very early. I knew by the age of 7 or 8 that I was attracted to men, right? I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know what sexuality was, but that was my direction. And for me, I had to go through that period. I think most of us do when we realize the gaydom of like, oh shit, am I burning in hell? Right. And so, because that started for me at 7, by like 9 or 10, I realized like, oh, these people don't know what they're talking about.
Well, good that you had that realization.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that was the only choice. Either I am fundamentally evil, which I know for a fact I'm not, or they're wrong, which is easily more acceptable. But that didn't matter. What it taught me at age 9 or 10 was that there's something about me that the world will hate and attack me for. So I have to conceal this at all costs.
Well, and especially, and I think gay is a unique situation because part of who you're trying to keep this a secret from, and most primarily from, is your parents.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is not true. It's a different experience than being of a different race, because your parents are, even if they're not that race, they're not like blaming you for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Or if you're fat, maybe your parents are fat, but everybody knows you're fat, as soon as you enter the room. The gay thing is like, oh my God, I hope they never
There's a
find
lot of
out.
hiding.
There's a lot of hiding.
It's very internalized.
Yeah. If you're found out. Yeah.
yeah.
So he had an immediate follow-up to that question, which was, did you hear gay first or straight first? And I mean, I don't.
Everyone said gay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, 75% heard gay first.
Yeah.
Because the first time I heard straight was from like when I met a gay person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
straight doesn't exist unless there's gay.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And straight people don't go around calling each other straight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
They don't need to.
It's assumed.
It's default.
That is
yeah.
the privilege of being straight in our society.
Yeah, it's
Like,
default. Yeah.
Maybe we'll live in a world someday where the straight people have to come out.
I think that would be
Maybe we
beautiful.
do. We live in West Hollywood.
I mean, I do live in a world where
It's kind of
occasionally I
true.
will have to inform people like, yeah, this person's coming to the party. He's straight. Be nice.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
That's
He
it's a
can't
bubble
help
though.
He was born that way.
We very much live in a bubble in that sense. though.
Yes.
That
Oh,
is-
God, yes.
Well, but I'm sorry. I have worked very hard to raise that bubble. I have worked very, very hard to ensure that when I hold the hand of the person I'm in love with, that is the norm in that neighborhood that I live.
Yeah.
So that that's a big deal for me.
How do you feel about pushing that outside the neighborhood you're in? Like,
It depends on my degree of safety outside the neighborhood. There are neighborhoods
Okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that, but that's my point.
Yeah.
I want to live in a neighborhood, and
Yeah.
I've managed to do this my entire adult life, where if I'm holding the hand of my boyfriend, that actually is the norm in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree. So, as this pertains to the show, we were thinking about what was the firsts of hearing like the terms chub and chaser, your first introduction to that, and first impressions, and did you have any first impressions? All of that good stuff.
I will say, I think that for me, and I'm going to take a risk and say, I think most fat people who've been long-term fat people like myself, if you were fat as a kid, you never discovered fatness. It was just always there, an ever-present force sitting on your chest. You know, I was informed at a very young age that I was fat by a pediatrician. My mother took that to heart because fatness was a horrible thing to her. So that became one of my defining identity characteristics. I never discovered it. It was just part of who I was as long as I can remember.
What about the term chub as it relates to the community? Like not just being
Did
fat.
not hear,
Yeah.
I heard of chasers before I heard of chubs.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
but that makes sense. Again, straight people don't call each other straight.
Yeah.
Fat people don't call themselves
I
chubs
just-
unless it's in that context.
Yeah. I mean, I knew there were fat people, don't
Yeah,
get me wrong.
exactly.
Yeah. But and again, this is one of those weird things. Like I've talked about my mom in the past being very virulently homophobic. I haven't talked about as much about my dad not being homophobic in the slightest. My dad has never had an issue with gay people. The only gay people I knew growing up were through him. And at one point when I was a little kid, there was a comedy coming up on the Playboy channel. And I saw the description of it they had TV channels at that point that would read off what was on other channels. It was like TV Guide channel.
I used to work in the building where the Playboy channel was broadcast from. Random side note. Keep going.
But on the Playboy channel, they were having this movie called The Ritz, right? Which is a madcap comedy about a fat man who gets in trouble with organized crime, who hides from them in a gay bathhouse. Hijinks ensue. And one of the first people he meets there is a self-described chaser who has to define what he is to the fat man as he starts hitting on him in the first scene. And what that told me as a fat kid who knew he was gay was there are people in this world who exist who will find you attractive no matter what your body type is.
Good.
Right? And that became this mythical unicorn that was on the horizon that I kept my eyes on through college, where I saw no evidence of it, through high school, where I saw no evidence of it, but I had that belief and it kept me going. And one day I found them.
I can't tell you the number of people who have written to me or Mikey about our True Life episode and making that same discovery. Like, oh my God, they exist. You exist.
Yeah.
Or I'll have people tell me like, oh my, I saw you 20 years ago on that show and I'll never forget it. Like it was when, the clouds parted.
It's a big deal, because literally everything else in society is telling you that you do not have a sexual being up until that point.
Or that it's being held hostage. Like, when you lose weight, then you can have love.
Yes,
Right.
that is exactly it. Yes.
I've wondered if, is there any, teens who have found our podcast?
Yeah.
And, where, I don't know. Don't message us. I don't want to know.
Don't interact. Don't interact.
Don't interact.
Wondering in a hypothetical sense, not in
Yeah,
a,
well, just because, like, I mean, I think I mentioned this like 2 episodes ago. You know, I found the Chub Chaser world just through like, okay, so I met a gay another gay teenager in a Pokemon chat room,
nice.
Pokemon trading card game website, Pokemon Zio. There was a chat room. There was this regular who was, also a gay 13-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever. And we were talking, and basically, like, he's like, I think you might be gay.
Oh.
So, like, maybe. And I was like, well, like, how would I know?
Wait. Who said I think you might be gay?
He did.
The other kid.
The other kid.
Charlie. His name is Charlie.
Okay. And you were like, I don't know. How would I know that?
Yeah. Because like I had seen like straight porn before, and I was just like, this is a thing. Apparently, people look at this and are not disgusted by it. And I remember the first. Telling myself first gay porn. Like I can't remember. I was like gay. I think I'd like just put in like gay porn into Google.
Alta Vista.
I probably Alta Vista.
Netscape. Remember Netscape?
Netscape.
And it took me to hunglikeme.com.
Hung like me. I love that. Talk about building up insecurity complexes.
And it was just like, a twink with a big dick. And that was more interesting. Anyway, and then so I said this, I feel like I said this a couple episodes ago. Eventually I was like, I wonder if there's like porn that reflects what I look like, because I just saw this porn of like twinks having sex with each other. So I put in like fat gay porn, I think. And I ended up on Whale Rider's AOL homepages.
Oh yeah, I remember Whale
website.
Rider. Yeah.
And there was all this stuff with like Chub Chaser stuff. And I think there was a link to Bigger City because Bigger City was like 3 years old at that point. I think, the internet has just been a huge game changer in terms of like, I don't know how you would, I guess you would like go get a pornography magazine from the adult bookstore and flip through the pages and maybe you would find something.
Dan and I grew up in that time period when we didn't have access to the internet. So I wasn't even aware that there was such a thing as gay chubby porn until I saw an issue of bulk mail in a store, and that blew my mind. That like not only are there people out there who like might find me attractive, but they'd be masturbating to me. Like what a concept, that was very weird.
How did you take that? Because so many people have a positive reaction and so many people have a negative reaction.
I would say yes to both of those things.
Okay.
It was a positive thing, but then also sort of like a wildly uncomfortable thing because I don't know why. I don't know why. I think my theory would be is that at that time, my sexual appetite was kind of voracious and like the things that were going through, like I wanted sex so desperately. I was, like, I don't know. I wasn't getting it, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of someone else looking at me with that sort of voraciousness to it was a little scary, I think, because that was something I felt I had to control, right? Like, this is an unhealthy side of myself. I have to rein this in, control it. So the idea that someone else might be looking at me that way made me a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure.
That is a very interesting.
I'm sort of reaching for an explanation.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because I think so much of the world operates like that. This is something that I hate in myself. That's why you can't be it.
Yeah. So, but it was also one of those things but it made me very eager to know what it would be like to be with someone who wanted that, who wanted to touch me in a way. I feel very uncomfortable saying it now because it sounds so lonely and desperate, but that's how it felt at the time.
No, it absolutely can. I mean, I remember even as a chaser, I was like, I have still not had sex. I have still not ever had sex. I have still yet to have my first sexual experience, and I'm in graduate school. And I was like feeling the ticking of the clock.
Yeah.
And like, how old is it going to be before I have sex? And why am I not having sex? And why do I not even want that kind of sex that I'm supposed to want? But I guess I want it. I mean, it interests me. I just don't get hard. What?
I feel like it's damaging in different ways,
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
you're searching for the thing you want, and I'm searching for someone who wants me.
Well,
you
and
know, it's like
to be fair, I mean, I don't know how it was for you, Michael, but it's not that you don't know what you want; it's that you don't see it as potential. Like when you're searching in your, like, let's say you're hungry and you're gonna make dinner. You ignore the ice cream in the freezer. Well, some of us do. You don't go,
I feel judged, Dad.
well, I mean, it's when you're looking for something to eat for dinner, and you're looking in the freezer, you usually push past the ice cream to the frozen chicken nuggets.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that there are certain things you're like, oh no, because that's not dinner. Because
Yeah.
ice cream isn't dinner. I mean, you might eat it for dinner, but it's not quote unquote dinner. And I think for me, at least as a chubby chaser, it was like, you know, fat men were not on the dinner menu. That's like, oh yeah, of course I like that, but that's not sex. Oh, of course I like that, but that's not that's not gay. Because I looked at gay magazines. No fat men in there. So okay, if you like fat men, that means you're not gay. I literally had it like that.
That's yeah. You've said that before, and I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, because I looked at gay, and that's not it.
So I must not be gay.
I must not be gay.
Did you have that experience, Michael?
No, he's not that
Or something
stupid.
like
He's
that?
not nearly as stupid as I am.
No,
he,
well,
he had more of an assortment of things in front of him when he was growing up. So
None of these things are relatable to me because I was just, it was such a different
Yeah.
experience. I mean, I didn't really have any fat people in my life at all. So I didn't really have the in-person visual.
I think that's true of a lot of chubby chasers.
Yeah, which might be part of it. I don't know. And then, yeah, the internet, much like Trevor, was sort of my way in, but it started with Bear, and that was kind of like good enough. And yeah, and then it spirals off into a whole, you know, like from me, from like 15 to 20 is like a black hole of my life that I don't really want to talk about. So like there's a whole other aspect of this that really has nothing to do with the conversation that basically governed all of these experiences for me. So yeah, none of it good. So it's not, I don't really have the like the slow wandering journey. I sort of went from like, you know, I went from being like a lily on the pad to being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with a maelstrom, like sucking me down. Like it just, there's really no, there's no
in the
part of
ocean.
that experience that wasn't being controlled by outside forces. So I was just kind of along for the ride. And then, yeah, after that, like I had already been, what's the word? Baptized. So like but it wasn't really it wasn't my journey or my experience. It was just what happened.
And what you mean by baptized is held underwater.
Yeah, literally. So, you know, I don't, none of this, the whole discussion of firsts really opens a can of worms that I don't particularly want to talk about.
okay.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when there are, because like I've encountered chasers who like have never, you know, they've had a full sexual life, a full life of relationships and everything, but they have never really experienced sex or intimacy with a chub and come out of the other end of that experience. Like I have never really, like I've had sex, but I've never really had sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that over and over again from chasers, encouragers, some gainers.
Yeah.
I will say there was one interesting thing about my first time with a chaser that I'm curious if other chubs and chasers have also experienced, where the first chaser I was with was just a little bit older than me, right? But very clear from our first sexual encounter, so much more experienced than me. And to the point where, for me, it was a first time being with someone who I really felt was attracted to my body and was enjoying my body. But to him, it felt sort of like, we're just having fun. This is something that happens every Tuesday. And I felt like it didn't mean anything to him, like it was meaning something to me. And I'm wondering if like the nature of the chub chaser community, having to work so hard to find someone that matches what you want, where you match what they want, if that leads to these sort of cross-experience encounters for first times.
Oh, I think very definitely.
Yeah.
I think, boy, there's a lot to say here. I think it does happen on both sides. I think Trevor, you have stories of, for you, I mean, you're no stranger to being with a chaser, but you have been with chasers who you were their first time being with a chub. And just like, I mean, Don's point is like there's a mismatch of, I guess, expectation and reality there. I'm not sure that's
I've never
bad
heard of a
thing.
chub and chaser having like their first experience together.
I have.
You have?
It was not me, but I have heard of that happening. I do think it's
nice.
rare.
It is
Okay.
rare.
I do think it's rare, but it has happened at least once.
That's sweet.
And it from the way it was described to me was a fantastic experience. So it can happen, people. Don't lose hope.
I do find too that I'll just, look, I'm a whore. I have considerable experience in this area. And so sometimes,
He's so honest.
but I will say I'm often in bed with a guy and they're like, oh my God, how do you know to do that? How did you? And I'm like, well, because for most fat people, their only reference for a fat body is their own.
Yeah.
So I said, it's because you're dealing with a sample size and experience of one. I am dealing with a sample size of dozens, possibly hundreds. And so I know how things work on a fat man's body that you might not, because you only have your body to play with.
That's interesting.
That's a very
And
interesting
from the outside point of view as well. You can
Right, and-
see and access different.
And my style of lovemaking is I'm trying to get an erotic reaction. It's not meaning it's not like about what they can do for me. It's really, for me, it's a lot about like, ooh, you're really going to love this. It's like showing someone a movie that you enjoy.
I'm like that too, but I have to admit, I like the exploration of it, because every once in a while you're like, you'll hit that point where it's like you see them shudder and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then you hit that point where you're like, I'm doing something and they're just looking at me like, why are you doing that? What? Like,
Yeah.
But that's fun to me. I love that confused look every once in a while. Like, well, all right, moving on to the next one.
Yeah. It's always different for different people. You can, and that's part of the fun is like figuring out, what works for that person.
Yeah, I really, and also, like I have techniques to control ticklishness, and I have, like I have a repertoire.
So, firsts there, ta-da!
Well, so
The first time we've done that.
Do we?
I don't know if you have a first story you want to share, maybe
Yeah.
send it to us, because I
we'd love
think
that.
it's a very
As
interesting.
long as you're over 18.
Yes.
I don't think we've had that problem yet, but
Yeah.
maybe we wouldn't know it, I guess, if somebody lied. But anyway,
Yeah. But speaking of firsts, our tip is a first.
really.
Listener and activist and just very talented individual, Caleb Luna, has released their first chapbook of poetry called Revenge Body.
Interesting.
Yes.
Revenge Body.
Yes. It's a book of poetry, and it explores themes such as their relationship with fatness, sexuality, and chasers. And for those of you who don't know Caleb or Chairbreaker on various social media, Caleb is a Latinx, non-binary, disabled, queer super chub. Caleb is also one of the hosts of Unsolicited Fatties Talk Back, the podcast. Check that out as well. I don't have the book yet. The first printing sold out, so
Oh, awesome.
I am waiting for it to ship.
Congrats,
I got an update that I think it's supposed to come like the second week of April. So if
Okay.
you do get it, you're gonna have to wait a little bit. You're gonna have to feel some anticipation.
Or if you already have it, maybe give us an early review or like your first reactions. 'Cause
Yes.
that could be kind of cool.
I will link various places to buy. I bought it on Amazon just because I get points and stuff. I get
That's how they get
yeah.
you.
But I mean, it's sold out everywhere. But I will also link to like the publishing website, which also I think $1 goes to a charity. I can't remember.
Nice.
Check it out. Support Caleb Luna. And yeah, I think we must have a bit.
We do have a bit.
Out of curiosity, has there been an episode where we have not had a bit? I feel like
once.
there was.
yeah.
I feel. I feel like every time we're like, "Is there a bit today?" and we all know the answer. We never know what he's prepared. It's always a surprise, but it's always kind of like, yeah, obviously there's a bit today.
Well, today's bit is fat.
There is a bit.
There is! Surprise!
There's got to be a sound effect for shock. Keep going.
His fat firsts, right? Some of these people are considered to be some of the best in their fields, or
The first.
or the longest, or the greatest, or whatever. The common link between all of these people is that they were in fact fat people. However, that is not always something that has to do with the question. So I feel like I should point that out.
Okay.
So Hatshepsut, Queen of the Nile, one of the most famous Egyptian pharaohs of all time, may or may not be resting in the Cairo Museum. The mummy there has been identified as the woman who has the longest reign as the Queen of Egypt, but there's some debate as to whether or not it's actually her. If it is, and everything we've learned from it is true, which of the following facts do we know to be false about Queen Hatshepsut? 1, she had severe skin issues. 2, she was diabetic. 3, she was balding. Or 4, she had a beard.
Oh, dear. My answer is not among the choices.
That's why I omitted it.
Got him.
I want to say.
I think that she was diabetic.
I think diabetic is false.
Diabetic is false? Dan. While Michael plays the Jeopardy theme song.
Dan.
I'm
I'm just gonna start playing random sound effects until you choose.
I think it was that. I think it is that we cannot rule not out balding.
Okay.
Whatever that
2 for
means.
balding, 1 for diabetic.
Okay.
The correct answer, the false thing on the list was she had a beard.
Oh.
She did not have a beard. Although statues of female pharaohs traditionally had beards attached, and she most likely wore a ceremonial fake beard out in public or for
Interesting.
things.
Okay.
His name was Herman.
But yeah, Queen Hatshepsut was apparently a very large woman who had several other issues that probably came in from severe inbreeding of the pharaohs.
Jesus.
Next question. The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, is arguably the most famous rock and roll performer of all time. While most of us know about his love for fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, which of the following facts is in fact true? 1, he had a pet pig named Porcorina. 2,
Like
he had
us?
a black belt in karate. 3, he was a classically trained opera singer. Or 4, he had a severe phobia of horses.
I feel like he had a pet pig, but I don't know if the name was Porcorina. I think that might be a trick.
That feels like a trick answer. I think maybe he had a black belt.
I think he had a black belt.
Okay, we got 2 for black belt.
I'm going to say he had a fear of horses.
The correct answer is a black belt.
Yay!
Elvis got his first degree black belt in 1960 and opened the Tennessee Karate Institute after he got his 7th degree of black belt.
Wow.
Interesting.
Question 3. And this is where I get... So there are certain names on these lists that can be occasionally difficult for me to pronounce. Konoshiki Yasukichi, born Seleva Fuauli, was the first non-Japanese person to reach the second highest possible rank in sumo wrestling, ozeki.
Okay.
At 633 pounds at his largest, the American-born wrestler was famous, having earned the nicknames Meat Bomb and Dump Truck throughout Japan. He seemed like a lock to be the first non-Japanese person to reach the top rank of Yokozuna. While the rank was traditionally awarded to people who won 2 consecutive championships, Konoshiki was denied the rank not only after his second win, but also after his third.
Oh,
Why was Konoshiki
completely expected?
Why was Konoshiki denied? 1, a member of the sumo committee said he lacked the grace, elegance, and refinement needed for the rank. 2, he was considered underweight for the rank. 3, he was considered overweight for the rank. Or 4, a semantic error in the rules prevented any non-Japanese person progressing to that rank.
Well, I think the truth is because he wasn't Japanese. Now, did they say that, or did they say something, or did they say the first one?
That makes sense to me. I was thinking because he wasn't Japanese. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna
Like
say
the
that
Greece.
one.
Which one?
Not Japanese.
The fourth one.
The fourth one,
Fourth
semantic error.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to agree with that.
Okay.
Fun fact, Konoshiki follows me on Instagram.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
I also worked as a bodyguard for him for the U.S. Sumo Open.
Oh my God. Got to get him on the podcast.
We have so many connections.
All right. So you are correct in the stab of racism, but that is not the official reason.
Yeah, damn.
It'll never be the
grace.
official reason.
Then it's about grace.
The official reason is grace, elegance, and refinement. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't contain. I think the actual phrasing by the committee was, he didn't understand Japanese culture enough.
Oh, how perfect.
To rise to that point.
I think we should all get a point for that anyway.
Yeah. It's just a matter
I
of
would
whether they
agree.
lied or didn't lie. Yeah.
All right. Thomas Aquinas, a very large man.
Really?
Did not know this. I always kind of pictured him being an ascetic.
Yeah.
But he's sort of, in Christian circles, he's sort of legendarily large.
They wouldn't let him sumo wrestle either.
No one claimed Thomas Aquinas got famous on his looks. He suffered from edema, one huge eye dwarfed the other, and he wasn't particularly dynamic, charismatic figure, being introspective and silent most of the time. Though today he's recognized as one of the most important Christian theologians of the Middle Ages, what was his nickname in college?
Okay.
1, Cherub. 2, the dumb ox.
Oh boy.
3, the dullest devil. Or 4, Too Good Thomas.
Okay.
Say the names. What's the second one? What's the second one?
The dumb ox.
Yeah, that's going to be that.
I don't want it to be that, so I'm going to say Too Good Thomas because I just don't. I don't want it to be
All right.
one
Well,
of the mean
I'll
ones.
split the vote. I'll say cherub.
All right. Sadly, the dumb ox was in fact what he was known as. Not so much because of his size, but because people genuinely thought he was dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was very slow to answer things.
The giveaway for me was, okay, so he's the smart.
Dumb as in doesn't speak.
Well, both.
Both.
Okay.
There's a anyway.
Well, in English.
What gave it away for me was the fact that the smartest guy in school is going to be given the dumbest nickname because that's who his peers are.
Yeah.
Like it's all the dumb, like it's all the people who can't think of a good insult. Oh, you're dumb. Like
An
like ox.
Yeah. Thomas Aquinas is one of those people that not a huge fan of his, but
No.
It does seem like a lot of the dislike he got in his time period might have actually been kind of looks based. It sounds like, aside from everything
Yeah.
he was saying. But so, do you have any major fat people in history that you'd like to tell us about? Where could they tell us about those people, Trevor?
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. 5 stars there. 5 stars Apple. Leave us reviews on
Spotify.
Apple too. Spotify.
I found somewhere else that they were taking reviews. I don't remember what it was called.
Wherever
There's
it
an
is.
aggregator. Oh yeah, there's a review aggregator called something or other. But yeah,
Something or other. 5 stars there. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Yeah, I don't know. We're back. We're good.
We're back.
How do you feel? You probably feel good. We had a good time. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit more of a downer, but we got some had some fun, had some sexy times. Maybe you're pushing down your fresh press because you got inspired by Michael to brew some coffee.
Ooh.
But there's some resistance, and you can't. It seems like there's something down there, so you list it out, and it's Michael. And
it's always
dressed
me. You shouldn't be surprised at this point.
and he's in a little monkey costume because that was the thing. And he's going ooh ah, which means
Watch out, I guess. What monkey costume? Where does that come from?
and it was the little
Call back
coffee. You mentioned it earlier.
No, it was a frog.
Oh,
It's a little frog.
Oh, I thought you were doing a Jetsons callback.
El Coqui.
This is a great fade out right here. This is a great fade out.
It was the frog. It was the frogs the whole time.